Welcome, my friends. I'm so glad you're here as we begin this week's Teacher Training Fireside. I am Robert Brock. Our purpose isn't to hand out worksheets or activities. It's to learn how to teach the gospel through story, doctrine, and spirit. From the Come, Follow Me manual. This week's Fireside brings us into one of the most sacred moments in church history. The martyrdom of the prophet Joseph Smith and his brother Hiram, and the revelation that sent the saints west with a covenant to follow God. When I get ready to teach, I start by praying, not just to ask for help, but to ask the Lord what He wants me to learn this week. I take time to read the Come, Follow Me lesson straight through. Then I go into teaching in the Savior's Way and other church manuals to see how it connects. I like to do this when it's quiet, no TV, no phone, just time to ponder. The best inspiration always comes when I slow down. I make sure every source I use is trusted and official. The Spirit can't confirm truth that isn't true. Once I feel the direction settle, I start shaping how I'll present it, always with the same purpose, to bring the Spirit and strengthen faith in Jesus Christ. Once we've prepared our hearts and minds, we're ready to explore this week's revelation. When Joseph and Hiram rode into Carthage, they knew they would likely not return. They submitted to arrest to protect Nauvoo, not because they were guilty. Inside Carthage jail, they read the Book of Mormon, they sang hymns, they comforted one another. Then the mob stormed the jail. Within minutes, the Restoration lost its founding prophet and patriarch. But heaven did not lose its plan. D&C 135 was written to settle the saints, to declare. This was not defeat, this was testimony. Joseph and Hiram's blood sealed their witness that Jesus Christ lives and that His work had begun. When teachers share this moment, keep the tone reverent, simple, and purposeful. We do not dramatize the violence, we elevate the faith. Teaching focus. Joseph did more for salvation, except Jesus only, than any other man. His work continues even when his mortal life ended. The Restoration does not die with prophets, it accelerates. This section gives teachers a powerful tool. Use D&C 135 verse 3 as a summary list of Joseph's mission. He translated the Book of Mormon. He restored priesthood authority. He organized the church. He revealed God's will line upon line. He began temple work. He sent the gospel to the nations. Invite your learners to personally complete this thought. Because of what the Lord did through Joseph Smith, This helps the lesson turn from history into testimony. After Joseph and Hiram were killed, Nauvoo felt like a house with a roof ripped off. People walked the streets quietly, still waiting for the prophet to come home, even though they knew he never would. Families gathered in circles whispering, "What happens now? Who leads us? Will the mobs come tonight?" From saints, we learn that fear spread quickly. Strangers appeared in town. Rumors flew. Some people tried to push themselves forward as leaders. Others claimed the church would fall apart without Joseph. Carrot Saints Brigham Young and the 12 returned to Nauvoo as fast as they could. When the saints gathered to decide who should lead them next, something powerful happened. The saints wrote that the Spirit fell upon the people, and many testified that Brigham Young looked and sounded like Joseph for a moment. Carrot stories, it wasn't magic, it was revelation. The saints now knew the Lord was still directing His church, but knowing who the prophet was didn't remove their trials. Within weeks, Mobs threatened Nauvoo again. Families packed wagons with whatever they could carry. Children walked barefoot across frozen ground. Some left their own homes still burning behind. They weren't just sad, they were homeless, hunted, and exhausted. And that is the moment the Lord gave DNC 136, telling them how to organize, how to help the poor, how to travel, how to stay united, how to keep the spirit, and how to turn suffering into spiritual strength. The revelation didn't remove the hardship. It gave purpose to the hardship. Modern application story, how this applies today. Today, we don't flee our homes with wagons, but we absolutely face our own winter quarters moments. Here is a good place to give a personal story. Just like the saints after the martyrdom, we face times when life collapses and direction feels unclear. To D and C 136 teaches that God may not remove the hardship, but He always gives order, guidance, unity, and purpose to help us move forward with Him. Brigham Young prayed for guidance at winter quarters. The Lord answered with DNC 136, one of the most practical, spiritual, and organized revelations in the Doctrine and Covenants. This wasn't just travel advice. It was a spiritual instruction manual for turning a brutal exodus into a faith-building journey. Teach these key principles. 1. Organize yourselves, verses 1 to 4. The Lord works through order, not chaos. 2. Care for the poor and the weak, verses 5 to 10. No one gets left behind. This is Zion leadership. 3. Be cheerful, verse 28. Not because life is easy, but because the Lord is with you. 4. Suffering can sanctify us, verses 31 to 33. The saints' trials were not wasted. They became holy experience. 5. God walks with covenant keepers, verses 17 to 18. This revelation transforms teacher perspectives. It shows that adversity is not something to escape. It is something God can turn into spiritual growth. How to teach this week's lesson with power. Teaching principles for DNC 135 to 136. 1. Begin with story. Tell Carthage simply and reverently. 2. Highlight Joseph's mission, not the mob. Keep the focus on Christ's work, not the crime. 3. Blend in context gently. Help learners see why DNC 136 was necessary after the martyrdom. 4. Emphasize hope. This lesson is not about death. It's about the restoration moving forward. 5. Testify of Christ. DNC 135 to 136 is ultimately a testimony that Christ leads His church. As you teach this lesson, remember, Joseph Smith died, but the restoration lived. The saints suffered, but they were not forsaken. Your learners today also walk through deserts, emotional, spiritual, personal. Teach them the message of DNC 136. God turns trials into covenants, and covenants into power. Close with your own testimony of the prophet Joseph Smith and the Savior who guided the saints west, and still guides His saints today.